Hi, Eugenia.
Hi, Michael, and hi, everybody. It's so great to see you all. Thank you for stopping by.
Isn't Eugenia gorgeous? Look
Oh,
at, isn't she just like, I just love to look at her. I got to look at her yesterday for a little while and I was like, just like swooning while we were
oh,
talking
come
on the
on.
Zoom because she's so cute. So thank you, Eugenia, for letting me jump in with Alex for a few minutes. He's awesome. And I want to make sure that we can continue to support him as much
Yes,
as we can. What
absolutely.
a
We want
tough
to
year.
support.
I mean, they have people from over 40 countries come to Austria every year. And this year they had to cancel it because of COVID, obviously. So heartbreaking, obviously, for that purpose. I mean, all of the shows, all of our big events, the makeup show, etc. But that's something that is and next year get your butts to Austria because it's so good, guys. It's so amazing. It's so much fun. So today I'm super excited because Eugenia is not only one of the coolest women in the planet, but I get to call her my friend, and I get to hang out with my friend as our last TPG online session. You, Eugenia?
We're taking off. No, I don't know. We're
I was
going
like,
to Mars with Elon.
So when Eugenia and I first talked about doing this session, and some of you have met Eugenia at trade shows or at the Artist Summit, one of the things that we had talked about was, yes, she's known as sort of this, we call her the OG BG, the original, the original gangsta brow guru. So for me, that's how our community sees her. And if I can share this, Eugenia, she goes, but can we let them know I do makeup too? And I was like, I guess. Relevant. So what we did was, she has a great session on the history of brows, which I think is fascinating and you guys are gonna love. But we wanted to jump in a little bit and have some fun and look at some of the old stuff that Eugenia's done. She just shared with us, she's been doing this for 50 years, which is nuts, right? And has maintained that level of relevance that whole time. So I'm super grateful that she's with us. I'm super grateful to share that story with you. But also, I did want to also mention that when we get through, is that you, Eugenia? Is that you or is someone else unmuted?
That's me.
It looks like a few people are unmuted, Michael. You might want to mute all again.
Yeah, I did. Everyone is muted, so someone unmuted. I had to let them unmute themselves, so I'm gonna double check.
Oh,
Sorry,
not me.
I'm gonna go through real quick. Sorry, guys. Guys, can you please make sure you are muted?
Like it's Vivian. Sorry, I see it come up when on Vivian.
Let me see. Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure we can. Oh, Joanne is unmuted. Joanne. And isn't Zoom fun, you guys? Who's sick of Zoom already? I'm actually not. I think it was Joanne. I think we're good.
It's good to see everybody, though. It's so great, to see all of us together. That's what's great about it, right?
Absolutely. So we have so one quick rule. So normally we have a little thing where I say, please don't video record. You can take as many pictures of the session as you like. The presentation that Eugenia is going to provide us with, which is super informative, is proprietary to Senna. It is a Senna presentation about the history of brows. So I'm going to ask we not photograph that in any way. No still photos, no screenshots, nothing at all. You're welcome to photograph Eugenia while she's chatting, but none of the imagery in your presentation.
I don't think you want to photograph me.
Oh, everyone wants a picture of you, babe. So we're going to jump into it, and because I just think it's fascinating, and I'm going to see if I can do this correctly because I did it yesterday, right? Let's see. Hang on. Okay, that's that. Share a screen. Oops. Let's see. Yay. Okay, cool. Again, guys, always, if you need to, a refresher, the little things on the top right of your corner, everyone should just have a bar on the right-hand side of their screen now, or on the top if that's where you have it placed. If you just want to have the view of the speaker, which would make you see me right now, unattractive, and then you get to see Eugenia, attractive, when she's speaking. So you can just click the top where the little bars are to the one that shows you a speaker view, and that'll give you the opportunity just to see Eugenia as she's chatting with you guys. So Eugenia, welcome. Super happy to have you here, as I've said. And we've gone back quite a while, and the industry's shifted and changed quite a bit in the time that we've known each other, never mind since you got started. Can you share with our audience a little bit, because I know everyone, you own, you know, brow and makeup studios, you've been doing clients for years. A lot of people ask, you know, what's next, what's going to happen, like, where are we, what's happening with COVID? Do you have any words of information or wisdom? What are your thoughts on where we are as an industry right now, and what's next?
Stuck. We're kind of stuck right now, aren't we? We're kind of stuck right now, although we're getting all the protocols in and everybody's working to figure it all out. I know that some non-union artists are back in productions. They're doing commercials and all that, and they're taking very cautious steps. And I really think taking all those steps is going to allow us to get back to work, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow. And of course, I'm in Los Angeles, and we had a spike, so they closed all the bars, and I'm just getting ready to reopen. We've been closed for 3 months, which has not been great for our business. We have 5 makeup studios in Los Angeles. I employ over 20 makeup artists and staff members for our corporate headquarters. And it's been rough. It's been rough to be closed for 3 months, because our makeup studios is our main source of income. So it's been a little rough, but we did get the SBA loan, and we paid all of our employees, and my husband and I forfeited all of our salaries.
Great.
So, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow, because this isn't over yet. And because people aren't wearing masks and they're partying and they want to go to the bars and have fun, which we all do, but it's not good. You got to wear your masks. You've got to take all your precautions. You've got to have all your sanitation protocols in place. And I know many of you have taken the Barbicide, and there's the conversation sanitation. There's so many programs available online, Rosemary Hunter, to have your sanitation up to par. So if we all do that together, then we can get back sooner. We can get back.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to all of us getting back to work. And until then, we're going to keep doing some Zooms for everybody, so we can.
Yeah, this is, you know what, the thing that's great about the Zoom is that we can connect with more people at once. So I think that's been really a great thing coming out of this, really.
Absolutely. So let's jump in, because we've got lots to chat about. Again, a reminder, no photographs if you missed what I said of Eugenia's presentation, please, just because it's a proprietary presentation for Senna. So making up with Eugenia Weston. This is my favorite picture of all. This sort of says it, doesn't it? This is the history right here. Application number 1.
That's because I'm so old. When I started doing makeup in Los Angeles, and I guess in the United States, really, you didn't need a license to do makeup. You did makeup because you were good at it. So people that were good at it just did it, and you were hired to do it. And in Los Angeles, there were not many of us. There was like 5 of us in Los Angeles. There was like Francesca Tello, there was Paul Starr, Franklin Welsh, Carol Shaw, did I say Paul Starr? I mean, there was hardly any makeup artists. So we did everything. We got all the jobs, but you didn't need a license. So there was no schools, no training for makeup, nothing. You just did it because you were really good at it. So I worked at a salon, and the owner of the salon happened to be a teacher, an educator at the makeup school here in Los Angeles. And he said, Eugenia, you're in my makeup studio and they're going to be making us as makeup artists as well as cosmetologists. You have to get a license. So I said, okay. So I went, and I was the first person to ever go get a license in the state of California.
That is so bad. There's just something
I know.
about that. It's really awesome.
I know. I can't believe it. I mean, I found this a few years ago, and I went, God, I was number one. Wow.
You're still number one to me, babe.
Mm.
Is this the salon, by the way?
That's the salon, Cassandra 2000. It was owned by Jerry Cosenza and John Cosenza, who is Sebastian. They're the owners and the founders of Sebastian International Hair Care Products. So that is, I created Senna, and I went with them with their salon. It was a fantastic salon. It was amazing.
This was not in the salon. This was
my first job out of high school. I worked at the cosmetic counter in Thrifty Drugstore. And that was, I would recommend makeup to people that would come in, and they would come back all the time for my recommendations, even with hair dye, I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked and they kept coming back.
And this was, I was looking at this. This is from, this is a shoot with Helmut
Yeah,
Newton.
this is when Viva magazine was, it was the 70s or the beginning of the 80s. And Anna Wintour was the editor of this magazine. I actually went to St. Thomas, and I traveled with her and did photo shoots, but this particular photo shoot was with Helmut Newton. I mean, I was so young, and I couldn't believe that I got hired to work with Helmut Newton. I mean, I was so young. I was in my 20s, but as I said, there was only 5 of us in LA. So we got all the jobs. He came from New York to LA, so that he shot there. And then I did all these movies. I was very blessed to have worked with Bette Midler when she was a singer, and then she became a big movie star. So she only wanted me to do the movies. So I did all of her movies. Now, I was always an editorial makeup artist. I did that all the time. So I never did film. So I had to be taught how to do film. And I was mentored by very, very legendary men, which I'm very blessed to have had that opportunity, Bob Schiffer and Bob Mills. So they taught me how to do movie makeup, and it's really a blessing. And then when I was working with Bette, she did a TV show, Gypsy, and I was nominated for an Emmy, which that was another blessing that was just completely unexpected, honestly,
And I'm going to go through some scenes, some shots up from online stuff from the films, but you still work with Bette now, right?
I still work with Bette, yes.
What's the project she just did? What was the?
I don't really do the movies anymore. I just do when she comes to LA right now. This was Down and Out in Beverly Hills on set. That was the first movie I did with her.
That hair is everything, by the way.
Oh my God, my hair.
Awesome. You're like a little punk girl. You were like a super cool punk chick.
I just had a lot of hair. And then I worked on a movie with Mel Brooks and Leslie Ann Warren, which I still work with Leslie Ann Warren. So this was Life Stinks, and Mel Brooks is in the background there. That was something. I still design all the makeup for all her movies. She does a lot of independent movies now, and she doesn't go on any movie without me designing the makeup for it.
That's amazing.
And then, of course, I do Bette. This was the Academy Awards, which I've done a few with her. I've done every show known to mankind with Miss Midler. Johnny Carson, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Oprah. I mean, every show, because she was so hot in the 80s. I mean, and then I did the first MTV Awards show. She and Dan Aykroyd hosted that, and then I did all those. In the 80s, she was just huge. She was on every magazine cover, and we did all that. And this was a Vanity Fair cover. This was with Herb Ritts. Herb Ritts, of course, is a very reputable, famous photographer that I was honored to work with as well. But I've done a lot of Vanity Fair covers with her.
I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you realized it, but the first thing I noticed about this, it's from 1987. And if everybody looks at the bottom right headline on
Yes,
it,
I know.
Trump, how I do it my way.
I know, Trump,
I
how I
almost
do it my
retouched it
way.
out.
I know.
I almost retouched it out.
Oh, no, well, I know. It was,
That's when you won the award. And then Tony.
yeah, Tony, she hired me to do this, and I still work with her too. You know, I work with all my oldies.
And I felt very special because Tony Basil came by. For those of you guys don't know who Tony Basil is because you're like 19,
Yeah.
she's like, oh, Mickey, look it up. It's amazing. But she was at our event that we did at the Senna Boutique, and Despina and I were like, oh my God, it's Tony Basil. So cool. That's Tony as well, right?
Yeah. And then, well, this is the first job I ever did with her. I had to make her up as a pink poodle. So, I mean, that was the first job. That's how I met her. And I've been working with her ever since.
Amazing.
And Namies, he actually mixed that foundation for me.
Really?
Yeah, he mixed that. Yeah. And this is just some editorial. I worked on the Smooth Crim. That was an editorial. I did a lot of editorial in the beginning of my career. A lot. That's all I did was photography and editorial. And then I worked on the Smooth Criminal video with Michael Jackson. That's how I got in the union. So I did all the dancers. I didn't do Michael, but Karen Faye did, of course. I know Karen really well. But I, did the dancers. And I, met all the people. There was a big crew in that, doing all these dancers. And of course it took days and days to do this video because he's such a perfectionist and a little OCD, a lot of OCD, right? And then I worked with the Village people because they wanted to change their image. So I was hired to change their image when they were the New Romantics, but
I was
what
is this?
It really didn't take off, but
No,
I did all of them. I mean, oh my God. I tell you, I was so inexperienced, and I don't know how I got hired for all these jobs. It was so, you know what? It was so different then. It was very different.
That's awesome. I want to get into, before we jump into the history of brows piece, this is more of your more current stuff you've done for Senna. In recent years. So I love looking back at the old stuff, but this is, for those of you who want to talk about longevity and relevance and credibility and technician skill sets. And it's just, this stuff is the stuff that is the most recent of Eugenia's work. So 50 years in, she's still creating iconic and beautiful and stunning images. This is all stuff from Senna and Senna campaigns, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is.
We're just going to go through these. Gorgeous. Do you do all of the campaigns for Senna, or do you ever have other artists? So everything we see.
I do them all, yes.
And you know what, I'm so mad, I forgot, I meant to grab the Harlequin image because I love that image. So look up Senna Harlequin because it's really cool. And I apologize. I meant to get that in here too.
Yeah, I told Michael, I says, everybody sees me as the brow, but I really started out, I'm really a makeup artist that does good brows because I'm such a perfectionist, and I feel that the brows sets the stage for a beautiful makeup. And my first professional job was working for a girl that had a business in a salon, and she did eyebrows, and it was big business for her. She was really the first brow guru, Bobby Joy, and she taught me how to do brows, and I just continued to do them. And I feel that it's very important when you are creating a beautiful face, a beautiful makeup.
And when you do, and I've watched you do makeup before in demos and things like that, and can you explain how much of a time, because a lot of people say they spend all their time on skin, or they spend most of their time on, like, there's, some of these really creative artists who spend all their time on eyes and then just throw some foundation on and make it stunning. How much of your time, how does your time break down? How much time do you spend on the brow?
Well, when I'm doing a client, I spend at least 20 minutes. But when I'm doing a photo shoot, it's different because usually it just depends. Usually their brows, I'll do their brows ahead of time, And then of course it will take about 20 minutes, but if they just show up on set, I'll just take a few out, because with editorial, you don't want a real groomed brow either. Editorial is very different. It's more minimal, and there's focus on just one area. So editorial is quite different.
So we're going to jump in. This one is one of my favorites as well. This is pretty recent, isn't it?
Yeah, those are all recent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous.
Brianna, she's so, those lips. Oh my God, I love those lips.
Absolutely. And then let's get into this, which is this is just fascinating to me. As a non-makeup artist who is a film buff and who is like, you know, infatuated with art and artistry, this presentation, just it's so simple and easy to understand, and I'm grateful that you're sharing it with our group. So again, no photos, guys, no photos of any of this, but let's jump right in. So,
well, never underestimate the power of a great brow. Never underestimate, and it's really important. And now, I mean, brows are very important, and actually they're more perfected than ever. And you're going to see throughout my history report here, you know, how the brows have changed. And so the 1920s, and I really feel, you know, when I teach, I'm always teaching because I've had my makeup studios for 44 years now, and all the makeup artists that work, they're young and they really don't know the history, and I have to train everybody. I really do. So I think the more you look back in history and the longer you look in the past, I think it furthers you into the future. So it's very important to see where we came from, who paved the way, what happened. And also, when you're a makeup artist, you have to know all the different eras if you are doing a film, and you have to be literal, or you're doing editorial, and you have to do it in a modern way. So what I've done in this presentation, I've taken an original photo of the time, of the era, and then I've put in a modern take. If you're doing editorial, just one, but there's so many versions that you can do with your own creativity. So I like doing a modern take on it so that you can see the variations. So, because sometimes when you're doing it, you can't do it literally, you just can't. But if you're doing a piece, a period piece, then you have to do it literally. So in the 1920s, the brow was really more of a downward shape. And it was a time of a silent screen star, and it was a time of the Great Depression. You know, and finally, she had the right to vote. She was really, you know, suppressed in those times, and I really feel that downward brow showed it. She's very sad looking, right? It was really a man's world. And when you look at all the old silent films, you know, she's tied to the railroad tracks and he saves her, and you know, it's that whole genre that was very suppressed. And you can see that the lips are all the same shape as well. They also go downward. They had that Cupid's bow, and they're the same shape. So you can see the sadness in her eyes. And it was really the look of the 1920s. And so my modern take, I love. I think it's gorgeous with the thinner brow and just that beautiful, beautiful eye.
And just to confirm, Eugenia, all the work, the stuff you're showing is a modern take. That's not your work. That's a swipe that you pulled, or
no? The modern take is not my work. And I do have some people credited, but I have found these pictures and I couldn't find credits, and so yeah, no, that is work.
That's great.
I love that. Isn't that gorgeous?
It's gorgeous. I want to ask you a question about interpreting a period look. You know, we had Debbie Zoller talking about period makeup, and that's about interpreting it exactly as it was because she's doing period projects, right? As an artist, when you look at a 1920s pic or when you look at a 50s pic, something inspirational, whether it's a magazine cover, whether it's a film, what are the elements that you pull out, or what are the things that you use as influence to interpret that look? How do you choose? In this case, we're talking about brows, but
color, shape, mainly shape, but changing it so that, like you can see on the picture, it's downward, but it's thinner. It just looks a little more current. It has a current look to it. You want to take now and blend it with the old.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, we have our Josephine Baker, and you know, she was a French entertainer, and that woman, oh my gosh, she was, you know, she was a civil rights activist. She was a first star to appear in a silent film, actually. And you know, she was dubbed as the Black Venus. So you can see that her brows are still not arched, they're still more straight across, but she was a very strong woman. You know, she went to France. She was born in America, but then she went to France, and she was more or less a French entertainer because she lived there the rest of her life from the 1920s. But then my modern take is, of course, that's Pat McGrath, who I love and adore. And you can see the resemblance, you know, of the way the eye makeup is, the way the brow, thin brow that sweeps down, and the shape of the lip. But it just has that modern, it just has a very new look. And the colors, you know, the golds and the pinks and the purples and all that, it's just very different, but it still looks like the 1920s.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't look as sad as the other ones, though.
It
right?
doesn't look as sad.
Doesn't
No,
look sad.
it doesn't. Mm-hmm.
Something
Well,
about
because I picked Josephine Baker because she was a very strong woman during that time. I mean, she was an activist and all that. So, you know, being a very strong woman, she wasn't suppressed, you know, as suppressed. In her younger years, she was, but then she went to France and got that recognition of being, you know, a singer, a dancer, and, you know, her outfit with hardly any clothes on, the nudity that was accepted in France, you know. She broke boundaries. She broke boundaries. So she didn't have that sad of a look. So the thing about the history, you know, society, the way that we think and the way our roles are in society plays on the looks. And as we go through history, I mean, you're just going to see how, you know, we start in the I start in the 1920s. I didn't start at times, but we started in the 1920s because I start in cinema, because, you know, Hollywood and makeup artists, you know, photography and all that. So that's why I start with the 1920s. And I think it's a good, nice aberration of look. So the 1930s, there was a big change. The woman became very glamorous. So you can see Jean Harlow here, the brow. It is just so high. They shaved off all her that high arc like that. And she became more of a sex symbol. That was very different, not more of a sex symbol. So they were extremely thinned out, extremely arched. And it was the illusion of bedroom eyes. There was tungsten lighting was really, really, really strong. They had to shade the eye makeup all the way up to the brow, or the eye would not even be defined. So that was really important. But you can see the relationship from the brow to the lip getting more round. So you see how it's all relating. So that lip becoming round is very important. And the lipstick was very dark. And, you know, in the 20s, it was very black. It's getting a little bit lighter. It's still red and bold. You know, we think of Marlene Dietrich, you know, Jean Harlow, Carole Lombard. They were our, you know, our sex symbols of that time. And then, of course, Pat McGrath again. You can see the change, more confident. The hair has changed as well. So all of those elements are very important in the total look. The brow has to go with the whole complete total look. Mm. So then we get, and there's another version of the 1930s. This is Greta Garbo. Now, Greta Garbo was really very instrumental in changing the look of Hollywood. She, again, you can see the brows are rounded. They aren't quite as thin, but she also drew in her crease, a very heavy line. And that heavy line really size, the shape of her eyelid. She had very deep sockets, and she had very long eyelashes. And I always give extra tidbits because I love the complete history of the eras. I love all that. Her lashes really inspired many of the other actresses, and this was when false eyelashes became popular because the other stars saw her lashes and they were her natural lashes. They weren't false lashes. And the other stars didn't have lashes as long as hers. So that's when false eyelashes really became popular in film. And every star wore them. And now you can see, again, the lips are getting more rounded. They're not as Cupid bowed. And so the rounded lip, the rounded eyebrow, it all goes together. And you can see when she does do that line in her crease, it's very similar to something in the future that we will talk about. And then Madonna, I have Madonna as my modern take on that side. Just thought with the lip and the eye. Now we get into the 1940s and big change, right? The women were finally getting their own voice. And you can see the brow. I mean, the brow is so full and powerful. Look at that change, huge. Shoulder pads, big hair. I mean, she was competing in a man's world. So competing in a man's world, she had to look powerful and be powerful and show, I'm a powerful woman and I can make decisions for myself and I can be who I am and I have a voice in this man's world. So that is very important in the 40s, and that is why the brows were super, super
Sorry, Eugenia, I apologize. Guys, I can't, when I'm sharing the screen, I can't mute everybody. Can you guys please check and be sure you're muted? Can everyone please check to see Guys, can you guys please check to see that you're muted? I'm gonna unshare the screen for a second, Eugenia. So
Pablo, ¿qué dinero?
Sorry.
Ya, no vamos.
Sorry, unfortunately I can't do this while I'm sharing the screen, so Odalis, please mute. Okay, there we go. All right, let's try that again. Guys, please be super conscious. And just as a side, guys, I know that we do things like we put on the session so we can hear it, and then we go and we don't have our video on so we can get some work done, or we're doing a client, and that is awesome because I want you to share the information. But unfortunately, if we're trying to make sure we're not muted and if there's distracting noise coming, I'm not able to do that. I can't undo it if you guys are unmuting yourselves somehow. So just be super conscious of that. So that way we can stay super focused. So I'm going, and if I say super one more time today, someone slap me. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to try to share the screen again. I apologize. Eugenia's going to be like, Michael, you're a shit show, man. Luckily, Eugenia's been on some of our sessions, so she knows it's not always a shit show.
Listen, I have makeup artists as staff. Believe me, I know. I have 20 makeup artists.
So
I know what it is. I know the brains. I know the brains of makeup artists. I'm one.
So let's see if we can do this again. So
anyway, the woman became more powerful, right? And you know what? And men, they started wearing pantsuits. Oh, that was a no. Even Marlene Dietrich, you know, she was like, whoa, she's wearing pantsuits. You know, women never wore pantsuits at all. So these women were starting to really have their own voice. So you can see the brow has to be fuller. It shows power. It's very important. And why do you think the brow is full now, right? We'll get to that. But very, very powerful. And then my modern take, I love this makeup. I think it's so beautiful. I just love it. And then we have a more demure 1940, still fuller. But also I want you to look at the lips. The lips were very rounded and they had a very deep void in that center bow area. They didn't have that Cupid's bow. And the lipstick was becoming brighter because color was coming into film as well. So now the lipstick was more red. It wasn't as dark. And all of that, you know, works together to create the look, the wavy hair, the short hair. So all of that's important, but the main thing about the 40s was that full brow. Very important, very important. So the next we go into the 1950s. And of course we have our iconic Marilyn. And when we're creating brows for this type of image, it changed dramatically because actually she became more demure and was known more as a sex kitten. Not a sex symbol as much as sex kitten. That describes the 50s look to me. And they were viewed as more sex objects. And of course, Marilyn was with the blonde hair, the platinum blonde, you know, very similar to Jean Harlow, which was a sex symbol of the 1920s, 30s. So women, they had full brows and the arch was at the outer end and it was more opened up. It was a longer front and it was a shorter end. And there was a big reason for that. There was a major reason for that. And the major reason was cat eye eyeliner. You never saw cat eye eyeliner before the 50s. So you wanted to open up that outer end to give view to that cat eye eyeliner, and it lifted the eye. It created that different shape. And you had to have that opening up of the outer end of the eye. And I love my modern take. I love that. And the lipsticks were changed. You brought in coral lipsticks, lighter lipsticks, light pinks. The bold reds were not as apparent. Everything became softer. And the next picture is, we have Dorothy Dandry and we have Audrey Hepburn. Now, Dorothy Dandry, you can see the brow, again, the outer end of the eye is more obvious, more eyeliner, and you can see the outer part of the brow is shorter. There's a long front and a shorter end. And you can see that also with Audrey Hepburn. So it opened it up so that your eyeliner was more obvious, and it was really, really important for that look. Dorothy Dandry, she was really the first Black woman to have a very successful Hollywood career. She was one of the first people. And she was the first to appear on Life magazine as well. So in the 1950s, this was really, really, really major. But that eyebrow is so important for the 50s. Longer front, short end, open up so that you could create that cat eye that was never seen before the 1950s.
Wow.
I think that is so fantastic.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Of course, then we have the quintessential Elizabeth Taylor that really is timeless. That beautiful full brow that is, you know, beautifully arched. And I mean, I could say this looks very modern right now at the time, you know, but you can see how the eye makeup is very different than it was from the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, right? You can see how the eye is becoming very doe-eyed shape. That was very prevalent of the 1950s. So the brow has to go along with that shape, and it opens up, and that's my modern take, with the opening up the longer front and the shorter tail to open up the outer end of the eye to keep space for that eyeliner and that lift, that flick of eyeliner. Then we get into the 1960s. Quite a different time. Quite a different time. It was a time of great rebellion. It kind of reminds me of what's going on now. A lot of Vietnam War, you know, burn the bra, free love, drugs, psychedelics, hippies, self-expression, a lot of self-expression. It was the climate, and the brows were pretty much left natural because it was a time for a lot of eye makeup. And it also was a time for the British invasion, and Twiggy was a big influence on fashion. You know, the Beatles, all of that, it was huge. And the lips were super pale. And that there was a reason for that, because all the focus was on the eyes. We wore tons of eyelashes. This was my time. I mean, I was like, you know, I was a teenager in the 60s, and we wore like 5 pairs of eyelashes, you know, huge. But as I had said before, you can see the line in her crease. That was very prevalent of that's what Greta Garbo did, right? She actually created that line in the crease, but Twiggy brought it back, and Twiggy also painted on her lower lashes, and she copied it from a rag doll that one of her friends had. She liked it, and you know, that was a big look, and it was really influential of what was happening during the 60s. But the brows are just left really pretty, soft, natural, because you wanted all the emphasis on that eye makeup. And there was an article in Life magazine called The Big Fade, where it meant about the lips. You wiped out the lips, and actually there was no light lipsticks then. So what happened was we wore concealer on our lips, because we wanted to erase our lips. So you just had the focus on that whole eye area, and the hair was really short and all that. Another thing that happened in the 60s too, we out of the real conservative 50s. So since it was a time of self-expression, it was a major time for, you know, everybody to express who they were. In the 50s, you know, when you were a gay man, you still had to be married and have a family, because you could not come out as a gay person. So the 60s, you know, started to bring all of that individualized about me. I mean, that's why it reminds me so much about what's happening now, because of the protests and, you know, everybody, you know, all the things that are happening right now. It's so different. So yeah, it was a real time. It was a real time of rebellion for every aspect of life during the 60s. So this was a major look. And then I have some different looks of the 60s. I have Sophia Loren, and her brows were all painted on. Very interesting. When you look closely at this photo, she shaved off all her brows, and each hair is painted. It almost looks like microblading, and she did this in the 60s, right? She did this because when she looked at herself on film, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but when you see kind of the white under her brow, it's kind of a little bulge. That is actually, I call that a brow bed. That is where her natural brow hairs were. They were lower, and it didn't open up her eye. And since there was a lot of eye makeup in the 60s, it didn't give her enough space. So she lifted up the brow, painted them on, so that she could this look. And to this day, she has never changed her look. Just like Marilyn Monroe never changed the look. Elizabeth Taylor, their look is iconic. When you see these people, that's their look. Like nowadays, everybody wears all different kinds of looks, except for, we know J-Lo as the glow. She still wears all different kinds of looks. We experiment with a lot of different looks now because there's so much makeup on available to us. But these girls, this was their look, and they stuck with it. This is their iconic look. So if you did a Sophia Loren, or if you did a Bridget Bardot or Marilyn Monroe, this is how you would do the makeup to copy it, you know? And I love the modern take. I mean, those are her natural brows. They're like, you know, they look like soap brows almost. And then the eye makeup with that beautiful, beautiful lift, and the light lips to make the eyes really the focus. Then what happened in the 60s as well is the futuristic and modern look of fashion. We had Courage, we had Rudy Gernrich. You think of Faye Dunaway, Jane Fonda, and Barbarella. There was that. There's Paco Rabanne. This is Penelope Tree. You can see the lower lashes. The brows were just like nowhere. It was going to the 70s, and they were just not really prevalent. And it was the futuristic look that was very popular at this time, was because this is when we landed on the moon. We landed on the moon. So the fashion designers, and fashion is a super influence on everything, on all that we do in makeup. So the moon landing was and advances in modern technology created these types of looks. I mean, and when you think about the 1920s and then you look at this, you go, oh my God, what a difference. Although this brow, look at how thin that brow is. It almost looks like the 1920s and the 1930s blend, doesn't it? But I love the modern take. Isn't that gorgeous?
Gorgeous.
It's like she has shadow underneath instead of the lashes, it's shadow. It's so beautiful.
It's so striking in the black and white as well, because you're really forced to look literally at like that
Shapes.
contrast
Yeah, the
of
shape.
the dark and the light, and that brow in this on the left-hand picture and the original is just it's so striking. It's almost disconcerting. It's so striking. It's like it's a moment. It's really cool.
If you should look for Penelope Tree, because she was, and Peggy Moffat for Rooney Gernrich. I mean, those girls, it was such a creative, amazing time. And Verushka, I mean, if I'm sure you know Verushka, Peggy Moffat, and Penelope Tree, but if not, look them up, because it was just remarkable. The 60s just let everything go. It was just a creative time coming out of those conservative 50s when everybody had to be prim and proper. It was just an explosion of, that,
Really is. And then the 70s, badass 70s.
The 70s was the era of the ruination of eyebrows. The ruination. You can see Pam Grier, which we know, Foxy Brown, and she was really the first female action star. But look at her brows. They left the front, the big ball in the front, and tweezed up into the natural arch line. And that was really prevalent in the 70s. And one of the reasons for that was, too, that it made more space for the eye so that you could wear the sparkly disco makeup and you could wear super long eyelashes. Also, you can look at Donna Summer, because she had that look. I can't get all the pictures I'd like to get on this, but Donna Summer, she had those big long lashes, so it gave space, but it was really the ruination. And this is, Pam Grier's a famous actress. We have Marissa Berenson. We have Carolyn Graham. I mean, look at their eyebrows. And these are from Harper's Bazaar. This is, from film and Harper's Bazaar. Look at the eyebrows. And when we look at it now, we can see, whoa, what they over-tweezed, over-plucked. They were really bad. And also right now, what's happening, like with more mature women, they're coming into our makeup studios and going, I tweezed all my eyebrows out in the 70s and 80s, and oh, can you fix them? Can we grow back? And that's when it happened. A lot of tweezing going on in the 70s. This is more of an editorial from the 70s, and that futuristic. I just love this picture, but look at her brows. You see how they're really big and bulbous in the front, and then they curve around. It just, it has a downward look. So when you have a downward angle to the brow, it makes you look sad. Instead of opening up the eye, it closes the eye in. So when you're creating a look for your client or your actor, you've got to look at the shape of the brow, what it's doing in relationship to the face. This is how I always teach it. I say that the shape of the face is the room and the features are the furniture. How is the furniture sitting in the room? Is it cluttering up the room? Is it creating a flow of the room? Is it making the room look larger? Is it making it look smaller? So you have to think about it, because brow shaping and doing makeup is architecture. It's how things fit together and how the shapes are within the shapes. So you have to always think of that. And I love the modern take. I love that with all the metallic colors. So pretty. Metallics really started in the 70s. Ultima 2 came out with all those beautiful metallic eye makeup. You never saw that before. You never saw any of that before. So then we get into the 1980s. And of course, Brooke Shields was, in her Calvin jeans. She was only like 14 years old or even younger. And it was very controversial. because she was so young. There was never a model that young ever. And Calvin Klein, he broke boundaries all the time. And he was so controversial. And he had her, you know, doing everything in those Calvin Klein jeans. But her brows were left alone, super, super full. So what happened to me in my makeup studios is all the clients were coming in from the 70s, over tweezed, saying, oh, I want Brooke Shields eyebrows. And I'm like, oh, so we let everybody's eyebrows grow back in as much as possible. But the 80s, everything was big. So socially, everything was big. You could make a lot of money. You could do no wrong. You could do no wrong in the 80s. The hair was big and crunchy, perms, shoulder pads came back because retro fashion came back. It was really, really very exaggerated eyebrows. And, you know, there was Boy George, there was Madonna, Margot Hemingway. You had all those full brows and everybody wanted them because we look to society, we look to the celebrities and our actors for our influence of how we want to look. It's just human nature. We just want to. And so we're back to bold. We're majorly back to bold. And then Cara Delevingne in that other picture, she's our new 2000 role model. She's our new role model and very much like a Brooke Shields of now. And you guys know Cara Delevingne. I don't know how many of you know Brooke Shields because, you know, that was a long time ago, right? So what happened was these are actual models. And the top picture is from Harper's Bazaar, but the clients would come in and we'd leave all those hairs because that created a fuller look. We would clean it up as much as possible to make it look, you know, groomed, but we would leave them like that. And now you can see on the lower, all the different types of, you know, brows and all the hairs that are left. It's very editorial now. It's very modern, and I love gold, so I have to put gold brows in anywhere I can. I just love gold. It's one of my favorite makeup colors. So we have, of course, Pat McGrath and Alexandra and all that. So what happened in the 90s? Big change, big change. It was a time of the supermodel, and the great Kevin Aquan. Makeup was very matte. You never saw matte colors before that, ever, ever, ever. Matte lips, matte makeup, and the brows were very defined, super, super, super defined and super sculpted. You have Linda Evangelista here, and it was due to the influence of the new celebrity makeup artist. This is when the makeup artist was setting the trends. This was the first time this happened. Wade Bandy was a big influence for us, but he wasn't really well known. He really paved the way for us. And, you know, Kevin Aquan, that was one of his mentors. I followed Wade Bandy because I'm a lot older. See, I'm 70. So I followed Wade Bandy way, way back in the 60s. So he was always someone because he worked with Scavullo and he wrote that book and he did some amazing, beautiful looks, and he did makeup like nobody did at that time. He created all these different fluids, and I'm sure you all have that book by Wade Bandy, Making Your Face or Shaping Your Face. So that book is really important as a makeup artist. But so now celebrities are setting the trends. They're setting the trends, but the brows were very defined in the 90s, and they got thinner. They got thinner, and there was a Heroin Chic, Kate Moss, all that happened in the 90s. So that was really, really something. And then we get into 2000. This is Troy Surratt, who he assisted Kevin. Of course, I love Troy. He is such a great artist. And this is our current time. And of course, our current time is definitely about narcissism. Becoming famous, self-promotion, you know, through Instagram, Facebook, all of that right now. You know, social media is so, so huge. It's made such a big change in our industry. And all of you are so familiar with that. I started in the 60s. So the evolution that I have seen is so fascinating to me because, as you know, as you see, I love history. I love going back in time. I love to see where we were, as I said, because I think it can take you into the future. I think you can predict when you know where you came from. I just think it's really important. And it's a creative process that I feel as artists we all need. So, you know, the makeup right now is definitely influenced by the drag community, in Instagram, and it's caught on really big, of course. So the brows are, you know, very different now, very full, very super full. These are some current, I think, beautiful full brows that we have. You know, you have Huda Beauty, you have Jeffree Star, you have Patrick Star, you have all these people. This is our current Instagram trend, which is not really my aesthetic, but it's making money for people and it's having recognition for a lot of people. And it is a major trend, the ombre brow. So, I mean, as you can see, we start from the 20s, look at where we've come. Look at what society and socially
Eugenia, I have a question for you.
what has done.
So you spoke about social media, and we're all super familiar with the impact that it makes, right? So, you know, you stated that very clearly. Do you, and you have a reputation, and the Senna Brow and makeup studios have a reputation for, you know, doing what's right, not what's hip and trendy, right? So how often do you have people come in with like a picture of James Charles or Jeffree Star or some influencer, Huda, and say, I want my brows like this? And what do you do in that case? Because I think what happens, and we hear this a lot, whether it's Joanna and I doing a bridal session, or whether James is talking about, you know, editorial, we hear people, you know, they're influenced by social media so much that they have a misunderstanding, I'll call it, about what, you know, maybe it should be. How do you recommend someone say, well, I know that brow looks great on Instagram, but.
Yeah, but, you know, first of all, I say it's not my aesthetic. I start out with that. It's not my, and I would like to show you what I feel would look good on you, and you know, always wash it off, right? So we believe in very natural, timeless looks. So you know, since I'm so much older too, I don't get that many young people coming in telling me that asking me that, and I don't really believe my girls do, because we're for natural full brows. That's what we're known for, and we're so well known. People come in for that. Come in wanting the Instagram brow. I won't do it. I just won't. I don't think it looks good. It's not something that I want my mark on. So I just say, let me show you what I would do. And if they like it, fine. If they don't, they usually like it, because it is more beautiful. You know, I don't like when you can look like you can scrape the makeup off your, like, it's not my aesthetic. I love transformation. I love gorgeous skin, and I create it, and I use a lot of product, but it doesn't look like you have makeup on. And that's how I do makeup. And people are attracted to that, and they come to Senna for that. They really do. So the soap brow, this is a huge the newest trend, soap brows, and it just comes, it's an evolution from wanting brows to even look fuller, because we want these super full brows. So now these full brows are pasted on your face, and it creates a fuller brow. And we also have this new brow lamination, right? We had soap that puts them down, and that's temporary. And now you have lamination that is more you know, it lasts for a while. Well, there he is. It lasts for a while. And people are really loving it because it, you know, it lengthens and pastes them, and it makes your brow look fuller. Everybody wants full brows now. I'm so grateful.
Can you explain what for those like me who don't know what that means? What do you mean we use a soap to?
Okay, well, soap brows, it's a translucent, like a glycerin soap that you wet, and then you put it on the brow, paste them down. It's very similar to the glue stick, gluing down the eyebrows. I actually think it was influenced from drag as well. I really do. I think when you paste them down and see that what they look like, then it gives you that look. And the lamination is like it's a permanent solution. And you put that down, and it actually permanently, semi-permanently keeps them flattened to your face. So it makes them look fuller. And a lot of estheticians are doing that right now. And then we have our current brow trend, our color and metallic brows, which I love. When you have the different color hair trends, which is huge, you can't have like your natural color eyebrows, right? So you've got to have your colored brows. So color and metallic is really important. And I always like to put editorial. I love my gold brows, right? And then we have your bleach brows, which is also another, I love the trend. I think it's very beautiful. But we actually at our studios, like Lady Gaga here, we lighten a lot of eyebrows because so many women changing their hair color. And if you have dark brows and you're a blonde, we need to lighten the brows. So we take the edge off with lightener. We do that. And so that is Lady Gaga lightened her brows because she has naturally dark brows. Of course, you have your editorial where it looks more alien-like, more outer worldly, and you create these looks that are very beautiful and unique, very unique looks. So that's your bleach brow trend. And then we have your runway. You have brows on the runway. Most of the models now are not tweezing their brows at all. They're leaving them completely natural. That is the look. Of course, when I look at this picture on the top right, take some of those hairs out. But, it's like, I want to tweeze a few. But you can see the different, looks that with your guys' imaginations, you can do anything and everything. These are just a couple of things you can do. And then, of course, we have our boy brows. Very popular now.
Just for the record, the term boy brow in this case is questionable. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
These are boy brows.
Well, all the boys. It's all of them, right? So
have you seen a big jump in, because again, I'm joking, James Charles is amazing. He's very inspirational. Have you seen a lot of guys coming now?
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of guys. Because we have guys that really care about how they look and we groom their brows. The brows in our studio, we do more of the brow that's on the right-hand side of your screen, more natural. We groom them and trim them and prune them. I have a pruning technique that I know nobody else has ever done. It's something I created. So we do groom them, but because personally, I like a male brow to look like a male brow. I like it to look manly. But, we've got like James Charles and Miss Fame and all those people that, they have a different look. So, they tweeze their brows and they paint them on very, it's a whole different thing with the transsexuals and everything. It's different. So, we have to take all that in consideration, and we get all types coming into our studios. You get everybody.
And you can't do anything with mine because I don't have any. So we're going to have to talk about that.
We can tint them.
I know. I've done it. It doesn't work for my brows. There's no hair. Remember you grabbed it? There's no hair there. There's literally, I need implants.
And then, you need implants, and then you can do microblading. Microblading is huge too, right?
And then I'll just end up here. So it's, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. First of all, it's fascinating. And I want to do something really quick because I think that it's really cool to look at, and you're seeing it backwards, but I did this when I was looking at this. And if you look, and I just go quickly through this, at the way that these decades really can be so defined. The makeup is different, of course, but it's the brow that really makes things stand apart. And then as we do get into this period, and it's interesting as you go through now, every woman in America didn't have an Elizabeth Taylor brow. Everybody didn't keep a Brooke Shields brow, but those were the things that were impactful for that time. So when someone says, I want like that 80s Brooke Shields brow, and by the way, I'm watching our audience, our TBG pros write things down, and they're writing down way bandy. They reached down, they wrote Brooke Shields down because the ones under 30 didn't know who she was. Like, this is the stuff that we do this for, guys. If you're a makeup artist and you don't know your industry references, there's a problem. And so Eugenia is generously shared all this great information, and I'm so excited you guys are taking it seriously and writing things down. we are in a period where you get to be more creative. You get to have a little bit more of a, you know, a moment with your decision making on a client or a model or even a bride. But knowing the history and knowing that stuff is so important. So thank you, Eugenia. We also talked about, you and I, when we start talking about this session, how people don't necessarily think about what their brows are saying. Like, what is it saying about you?
Yeah.
How are your brows creating? So this is a great section. So I'm excited about this piece too. And this is all your.
Yeah, and I want to go back for a minute. I want to say something. Go back. I do want to say something. You know, because the brows do make us look angry, sad, happy, and all that. And there's a sign. It was with MIT. There was a study, and the study said when they erased people's eyebrows, even on a famous person, you didn't recognize them. They were unrecognizable because the brow is such an important aspect of the face to determine characteristic of that face. And you know, being in makeup, theater makeup changes the character with the brow. When you do a character, the brow is so important in creating that character, whether he's a devil or an angel or whatever, sinister or happy or sad or whatever, that brow plays an important role in how you interpret that character. So that is important. So that's how important the brow is. Absolutely. So, and brows have a real function too. It isn't that they're just pretty and we put makeup on them. They divert moisture from the forehead coming down the angle. They divert moisture so that it doesn't get in your eye, and your lashes, of course, keep dust away. It's really a functional feature of our face, you know, that we need to, it's a survival mechanism. So, you know, if rained on or we're sweating, it comes and then it diverts the water down so it doesn't get in your eye because we have to see. That's part of survival. Wow. So that's mainly what our brows were for. But now, of course, we want to paint them and pluck them and do all that stuff, right? Really a big change. So the shape of your brow defines you. It really does. So what I've done here is I've taken one model and I have given you some examples of how it distorts the face or how it changes the face. So the tadpole eyebrow, which was the Pam Grier eyebrow, which a lot of people had with the big bulbous in the front, and then you've tweezed into your shape. It just distorts the eye. It makes it look funny, right? And then you have your down brow, which look at how sad. It makes you look sad. So if you want that look, fine. If you're doing a 20s look and you need that look, fine. But that's what it says when somebody looks at you. Because our face, our expressions are how somebody, you know, reads us. Okay, we can go to the next one. And then we've got our round brow, which lifts up and it gives us that surprised look.
I like this, the tagline, surprised look even when you're not.
Even when you're not. Very similar to the Jean Harlow look, right? And then you have your man brow.
Where's the Botox brow? Do you have a Botox brow?
I don't have a Botox brow.
Okay, sorry.
But this could be like a Botox brow. Yes. The mad brow. It is actually, because a lot of women, when they get Botox, it goes in and it goes up like this. They're not doing that as much lately, but when it first came out, that happened a lot. It was pretty prevalent. It really was. But they're so much better at it now. But yeah, look at what it's made her face look like. The same face. Look at the difference. Look at what it says. And then we have normal. We have our beautiful balanced brow that opens up and says, I'm beautiful, right? It's a classic brow.
I just want to go back and just look at those all again real quick, and it really is. And the makeup is exactly the same on all of them, right? It's just the brow that's changing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's funny when we do sessions, especially with Makeup 101, you know, and James could speak to that, or Bethany more than I, but it's amazing how, you know, people will spend so much time on getting that blending happening in the eye area. They'll get that blush right, the hour, like 20 minutes to get that foundation right, but then they rush through the brow, and that's the thing that we have to get people to understand in the session. You don't rush the brow. This is like, look at the difference in the makeup in these things. But by the
Brows
way,
aren't easy to do. They aren't easy. I've trained everybody that works for me. I have to train them on brows. It's an art, and a lot of new artists have a hard time seeing that. But I have a system to teach. But yeah, they aren't easy to do, to create that beautiful arch, which really creates the symmetry to the face.
how much of it is the existing hair? And I know we looked at different images, Sophia, Sophia Loren, et cetera, where it wasn't the actual hair that we're looking at. It's the makeup, right? So with that said, if someone is a makeup artist and they're not able to, tweeze or, pluck a brow, a client doesn't want it or a model doesn't want it, how much of it is color versus the shape you create? Like, really?
Well, no, if it's supporting the face and it's not a good balance or a frame for the eye, then you're going to have to block some of it out and create a nice looking brow with makeup. You're going to have to. You can block it out with concealer or wax or whatever, because you've got, your image has to look good. It has to look good. It's your artwork, and it sells you.
This is one of my favorite things because, and Eugenia, just so you know, the piece that was in here with the product staples, that's at the last part. I moved that to the end just so you know it's not missing. But I want to get through these before and afters because I think it's really fascinating. Are most of these done with just color, or are they done with you doing tweezing and shaping with color?
Tweezing and shaping.
Okay.
Tweezing and shaping, because this is for our makeup studios that, for people to see the work that we do. So, somebody that's ungroomed, and then what happens when they're groomed, when they're messy, where she has beautiful brows, but they're bushy. She has no ends or no fronts. And do you see what that does to the eye itself? When you have an eye that's bigger and it's going to a smaller point, which is a tiny brow, it makes that whole area look smaller, as opposed to when you have the eye and you go to a big point. Do you see that? Because there's what is known as a triangle of beauty, and this part of the face you want width. You want this to be width, and you want to go down into a triangle. That's the most beautifully photographed face. So you want to create this width here, and you can't with this. It just doesn't open it up. So you can see the difference. This is bushy, no shape. It almost looks very masculine. And then this is, she really ruined her brows. She overwaxed, over tweezed, and that's not pretty. It just doesn't have the flow above the eye to make it have a beautiful image. As we get older, we lose hair, they fade. So you need to, of course, tint or add, tinted brow fix, and look at the difference it makes on somebody that's older. And of course, many of us do brides that do the mother of the bride, the grandmother. More mature actresses have the same problem. These aren't models. So actresses have the same problems as regular people, pretty much. Look at Helen Mirren. Look at Bette Midler. Look at these people. They need corrective makeup, So it's like, it doesn't matter who you have to know how to do everybody. You have to know all these aspects. So, I mean, look at it. She looks so much younger. She looks so much younger.
The before looks kind of like my brows. I was just looking.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it, Michael?
It's weird, right? I don't have any brows. So one of the things I asked Eugenia, because we're not doing, we're not like doing makeup in this session, is if she could take us through sort of what some of the most important brow essentials are for every artist to have. And so I hope you don't mind, Eugenia, just going through these a little bit. Well,
this is my former brow that I invented in the 80s. And I invented it out of a need. In my makeup studios, we did so many, we did. I mean, we were like the only brows in Los Angeles. We did so many brows. And I invented this out of a need. I mean, when you're working with so many different women all the time, constantly, you figure out ways to help them create a. So what happened in this time period was that I had a client that came in to my makeup studio, and she said, Eugenia, you shape my brow. When I leave, they look fabulous. You fill them in. I can't do it when I go home. She said, you have to invent something so that when I go home, I can do my brows like you do them. So what happened was, how I invented the stencil was, it was during the holidays, and I was thinking about it when she was sitting in my chair. I had just done her eyebrows, and I said, so I had this Christmas card box on my station, and it's got this Mylar thing here, right? This lid. So my mother was very creative. She could make something out of anything. She was so bold, and she experimented a lot. So what I did was I cut out a little piece of plastic like this from that lid, and I took my eyebrow pencil and I put it on her eyebrow that I just made so beautiful. I drew on the eyebrow, and I took my makeup scissors, my brow scissors, and I cut out the eyebrow. And I said, okay, let's try this. So I took off the eyebrow that I made for her so beautifully. And in my day, we didn't have all this stuff that you guys have to buy. I had to make so much stuff to, create makeups. So then I took this cutout, and I took my makeup powder with a brush, and I went like this. And I went, oh, that looks pretty good. And then I flipped it over, and I did the other side. And I said, try this. And so she did. And she called me a couple weeks later, and she says, Eugenia, that brow thing you made for me? I can do my brows like you now. I go, fabulous. I'm so happy that I'm really happy. It's very exciting. I took no thought about it. So about a month later, this lady calls me, and she goes, Eugenia, you don't know me, but my friend Mary, you made this brow thing for her, and can you make me one too? I go, okay. So I had to find more lids, had to find more Christmas card lids. And she came in, and I made one for her, and 500 hand-cut stencils later.
Oh my God. Is that a book of stencil cuts?
This is a book of all my stencils from all my customers.
Wow.
Even Bet's in here, Barbara Streisand, all my customers.
Really?
500 stencils.
You should publish that.
Later.
We'd all buy it.
My husband said, Eugenia, you cannot sit and be cutting stencils for people. It is not cost effective here. So what happened was, is that I went through that book, and I do have a classic way I do brows. And I took the most universal shape, and I made it in fine, full, natural, and extra. And Former Brow was born. And we created the kit, and it was quite a sensation. There was nothing like it on the market. I had huge companies ordering it, like Coty and L'Oreal, and I went, oh my God, I better patent this or something, because they're going to copy me, because nobody had anything like it ever. Nobody had anything like it. There was something in the 1930s, but it was cardboard, and you had to use pencil, and it didn't work properly. You can only use these with powders, but they work really, really great. And of course, I've inspired many since this time, and Former Brow was born.
How many stencils are in there?
There's 4. There's 4 stencils. You can buy them separately. Michael Key, who is the makeup artist and the makeup show founder, he said to me, all the makeup artists
Say it right.
But-
He's IMATS, not the makeup show.
I mean my Mets. I meant IMATs. He said on his, he would take these to set when he'd have to do like a period extras, and he had to have a 40s brow, and he would go and go, and they would be done.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it's really a useful tool for a lot of people. It's a
There's
useful
the 4
tool.
right there. Okay.
It's also a useful tool for people that have that are undergoing chemotherapy. It's a useful tool for people that need a guide to tweeze their eyebrows. It's a useful tool for people that don't know how to do eyebrows, and they
How much
can
is
have
it? If you know the price, well, how much is it? I don't know.
$42, I think. Well, each stencil is like $10, and then if you buy the whole kit, it comes with 3 shades, a brush, and 4 stencils. It comes that way.
And then,
Of course, you need brow gel, your brow pencils, your tweezers. You need all of that. I
What,
think you guys could tweeze a few hairs out on set. No, you don't have to be an esthetician, right? You got to take a couple hairs out sometimes.
the opinion of Eugenia Weston is not that of the Powder Group, Michael DeVellis, or Zoom.
No, it's my opinion.
We do not encourage people to break the laws of their state.
No.
However, having said that, I just want to say, and I wanted to end on product because one of the things that's so amazing to me is that you've had this line. How many years have you had the line now?
44 years.
44 years. 44 years you've had the line, and that's longer than MAC and Makeup Forever and all of our other brands we love. It's actually longer than Cinema Secrets.
It's one of the longest pro lines. It's one of the longest because it's from 1976. There was no pro lines. I was like one of the first ones in Los Angeles. We had the first pro makeup artistry makeup studio.
That's amazing. I'm just gonna stop sharing the screen so that I can. I want to see that brush book again because we couldn't see it big because I was sharing the screen.
What brush book?
The brow book. Sorry.
Oh, my
Sorry,
brow book.
Yeah, because I couldn't see that, so I have to put you on speaker view so I can see that. So can I take a picture of that?
Yeah.
Okay, you can take a picture, guys.
Oh
Only
gosh,
thing
I
you
don't know all my eyebrows.
That's awesome. The only thing you can take a picture of Eugenia. Where's Bet?
She's in New York right now, but she's coming.
No, I meant where's the Bet brow?
Oh, I gotta find it.
No, never mind. No.
I can find it and
show me later
post
for
it.
sure.
I'll post it.
I can't believe we're at an hour and a half already, and I could listen to you talk all day. But I just want to remind you guys that Senna offers a 20% discount. I think, right? Is it a percent across the board on all your product?
Well, yeah, for the pros, and then if you enter our pro program, some people get 40%. There's all different percentages. Yeah, you have to, join the program.
Right, and you guys can use your TPG Pro membership as one of those criteria, and check on the TPG Pro page. Just a quick before I say a final thank you to my gorgeous friend Eugenia Weston. Just a reminder, all of our stuff that we're posting, guys, we're getting a lot of feedback from our email blast, but the TPG Pro page is where we do most of our updates. So make sure you're tuning in for any event changes and additions. You're always going to find out about them there first. The reason I'm saying that is I'm going to go ahead and post a link to where you can get your pro discount set up with Senna. And also we'll post a link to the website so you guys can make sure you can check that stuff out. I just want to say, Eugenia, thank you so much for spending time with us today. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you guys for sitting in on me. I hope that it wasn't too boring.
My God, don't you love when someone like Eugenia says, I hope I didn't bore you? And we're like, keep talking, just keep talking, just keep talking. You're amazing, guys.
Oh,
Stay
thank
safe
you guys.
and
I hope that I helped you. You have fun with brows and can create all kinds of beautiful looks. And if you have any questions, DM Michael and he'll ask me. And I am a mentor, a teacher. I'm at a phase in my career now where I'm teaching all the time. And, that I do to pass on all the knowledge before I kick the bucket. So,
and nothing like ending on a positive note. The death of Eugenia in the future. Listen, you guys, thank you all for being here. Eugenia, thank you so much. We love you, love you, love you. And we love
you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for being here today. And be safe. Stay safe.
Stay safe. And good luck with the openings of the Makeup and Brow Studios. Fingers
Thank
crossed.
you so much,
All right,
Michael.
guys. Bye,
Love
guys.
you. Bye.